Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and welcome back to Sentai Potential, the series where I take a look at skipped seasons of Super Sentai and look at how they could be adapted into Power Rangers. This is not a series where I pick which season will get adapted and which ones won't. This is simply me giving ideas on the seasons and how they could get adapted based off of the aesthetics, source footage, and possible toy sales. This is part 3 of the series, where I am going to be taking a look at the season everyone thought would be the 2019 Power Rangers season, Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. But before you keep watching this video, I highly recommend you take a look at parts 1 and 2, because there is a lot of stuff I go over in both of those videos that contribute greatly to what I talk about in this video and the rest of the series. Also be sure to join the Discord server, where you can talk to me and others about all things tokusatsu, and follow me on Twitter, where you can get sneak peeks about upcoming videos and hear my thoughts on other things. Now, let's jump right into the aesthetics of Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. Space. Everyone loves space, right? Of course, and that's why Kyuranger has one of the most universally loved designs and aesthetics ever. Let's start with the mechas, which for a while were literally my favorite things ever. Visually, they are outstanding, with the bright ranger colors making every limb visually distinct from each other, but we still have everything unified by the Q-Tama connection joints and the silver used throughout the whole design. Along with that, we also have the individual mechas pertaining to each ranger, which are also great. We have this robotic animal design that works well for pretty much all the robots, and it makes them feel different and original, but still a bit familiar to the whole Super Sentai formula. Then they have the added bonus of having the ability to scramble city, which allows you to take an arm and make it a leg, make another leg and make it an arm, and vice versa, which allows you to create all kinds of crazy combos and forms. One of my favorite things in a toy line is when we the consumer are given the ability to keep building on the products we are given and make more out of them. The ability to mix up the limbs of a giant robot is about as crazy as you can get for now. All the mechas are just amazing in this series, and if they do get brought to Power Rangers, you can count on me buying them, and maybe even reviewing them? The robots also feature a large part of the Kyuranger aesthetic, which is asymmetry. Pretty much everything in this season has some sort of asymmetry, from parts of the robots missing paint where you wouldn't think they would, to all of the ranger suits having an asymmetrical star chest, and almost all asymmetrical helmets. It's another part of the season that makes it feel extremely unique, but still part of Sentai. Speaking of the ranger suits, Kyuranger does this fantastic thing with them where all of them have a difference in them that makes them unique from the others, outside of the visors, which also happen to be extremely unique from each other. Red is a simple design, but orange has a tail, blue has fur, gold has robotic parts, black is big, it goes on. It makes our ranger team feel like it really is made up of people from every corner of the universe, and it makes it feel massive. Of course, you don't need any illusions to make this team big, since it's literally 12 rangers. With the lack of the Talon Ranger and Dino Charge, this would undoubtedly be the biggest ranger team ever. As I've mentioned twice before, Hasbro appears to want to start making Power Rangers a different kind of show in order to bring it back into the mainstream and win back the good graces of the fans who may have left post RPM. Kyuranger is not only a different looking kind of series, but it is also a beautiful looking series, so I think it is certainly a great pick for Power Rangers. I think that the actual show adapted from Kyuranger could be a bit tricky to do if we want something unique and different. You can't really go in on the animal designs because you'll seem too much like the possibly recently adapted Zyuohger, but you can't really lean into the technological aspect because Beast Morphers does this as well. Then you would have to really use this space aesthetic, but then that also comes with some problems. It's been a while since we've had space-themed seasons, but those are some top-tier seasons, so people would really draw some comparisons. But we've also been getting aliens as our villains for a long time now, and I think it could feel very cliche. So I think that what Kyuranger should do is just go full cosmic with the series. Our ranger team should not be made up of humans at all, kind of like in Kyuranger where our main cast is made up of some robots, but here we would have pretty much entirely aliens and those few robots. The difference is that we would actually go out of our way to show that these characters are aliens by changing little details that are usually extremely typical of the human face. You don't need to make monster suits or do the most complicated makeup job. A minimalist effort can work well. Stuff as simple as using some contacts, changing hair color, or changing some complexions could work very well. The times that we get a non-human character become a ranger tends to be restricted to mentors, so having a whole team of non-humans would certainly be outside of the norm and could help with the season's outreach. To add to this, I think that the seasons should do something that is traditionally done in the most famous space opera of all time, Star Wars. I'm not the biggest Star Wars expert, but I know that in the movies, they never really mention Earth at all, so that they can focus on other planets, and so that the whole series can feel different. I think that the adapted Kyuranger should do the same thing and basically pretend that Earth doesn't exist. Don't mention it, don't visit it. As far as we know, it isn't even real. Not only would it help the season feel different from other space seasons of Power Rangers, but it would also fix this middle section of Kyuranger where we return to Earth and kind of ruin the awesome thing that was going on in the beginning and end of the series where we went planet hopping. That would be an awesome thing to do with the adaptation. Alright, now here's an adaptation idea that I think is, in my opinion, absolutely bonkers and probably won't be used, but I personally really like it and I wanted to share it. As always, be sure to leave your own ideas in the comments. So, alright, with the space exploration theme, we could totally make some references to past seasons of Power Rangers by mentioning different planets. You could mention KO35, Sentai 6, Common 5, Aquitar, you get the idea. We wouldn't necessarily visit these planets, but we could mention them, linking the season to other seasons of Power Rangers. We would also mention how they're protected by the coalition the Rangers are working for, kind of like in Kyuranger. Also, like in the Sentai, our heroes are working to liberate the rest of the universe from another coalition, one that is evil, but we never mention either coalition by name, only referring to them as allies or enemies, or maybe the name of a certain general and his forces. We do this until we get to Earth. Yes, I know what I just said, but this idea will only work with Earth. The other idea would still not use Earth if it was used on its own. When the Rangers are going to save Earth, they're told that it will be a tough planet to conquer due to the powerful warriors there that have been warding them off and their forces for some time. When the Rangers arrive to Earth, they see just who these warriors are. Other Power Rangers. And not just the rest of the Kyuranger team, because they would be fully assembled by then. I'm talking about legendary Rangers from seasons prior. And these Rangers aren't mind controlled either. They are actively working against a coalition the Kyurangers are part of. They reveal to our Ranger team the atrocities that the now named Dark Coalition has been committing and how they have been lying to the Kyurangers, along with the fact how they have been essentially brainwashed since they were born and were led to believe they were fighting for the right cause, only to realize now that they've really been lied to all this time. This would naturally lead to character struggles and a theme of existential crisis in who we are meant to be in the world, or in this case, the universe. Some of our Rangers would switch to the side of the Earth Coalition and be led by Ho-Oh Soldier, the Ranger leading this whole coalition, while the others would stay with the Dark Coalition. This would be a good way to use the battles in the Space Squad vs. movie as well. Of course, eventually all of our Rangers would return to the side of good and battle as one unit against the Dark Coalition, maybe once the Red Ranger unlocks the Orion power-up, since it is more of a pure looking form per se. This is certainly an ambitious idea and would really only work if Kyuranger is an anniversary season, which it would be if Hasbro switches to single 40-episode seasons and leave Nickelodeon. Sadly, there's a possibility that this might not happen, but the idea could still work. All you have to do is switch the planet from Earth to any other one, and just have Ho-Oh Soldier lead a rebellion of other soldiers rather than having them be as Rangers. The idea overall would still work and create a crazy different Power Rangers season. I still hope that we include references to other planets as well though, because come on, how cool would it be to see Common 5? Now we're almost at the end of our space journey, as it's time for our look at Kyuranger's toys. Let's start with the roleplay items. Like with Zyuohger, we're going to say there's 4.2 morphers, as there's a decent possibility that we'll see the Ryu Tsoder or the Ho-Oh Shield be brought up in price. I'm also including the Dark Seiza Blaster with this calculation because it's an easy repaint that's in the show, and I'm sure Hasbro will use it in some way. Oddly enough, there's only one weapon in the season, so we're going to go through with that as a $30 weapon with sounds. Then there's two $10 masks. Now we've got the big one, the Kyutamas. In Japan, Bandai sold 99 Kyutamas. 99. Now, most of these were sold in promotions, as candy toys, or as gashapon items. Only 31 of these were actually sold in DX sets. Now, because of this, it's really unclear how Hasbro might handle a gimmick on such a big scale like this. Would they release them in double sets? Triple sets? Would they even release all of them, since we don't see all of them be used in the show? Obviously, you would have to make Kyutama a thing because they are all present in the morphers, especially when we switch to using power-ups. So because of this, I'm going to cheat a little bit and only include the Kyutamas that could make sounds on their own, and assume that the main Ranger's Kyutama would be included with either the 6-inch figures and or the Zords like in ToQger, and either way they don't add any extra cost, so it doesn't really matter. And as we'll see later, the whole Kyutama thing won't really make too big of a difference. Since there's 2 power-up Kyutama, we're going to put those in as $20 in the Kyutama gimmick section. Now for figures. Ooh boy. There will be 12 normal Ranger figures, and then the 3 Shishi Red power-ups, and the Hebitsky metal form. With the exception of Orion, I imagine that the other power-up pieces could be removable and swappable between the Rangers. Then there's 4 villain figures. I would like to point out that this is not factoring the possibility that we could see the robot characters made into extra $15 figures like the Beast Bots in Beast Morphers, which would of course lead to more sales. Then we've got the standard 5 $10 12-inch figures and 2 $20 Megazord figures. Lastly, we have the full-on combinable Megazords. Firstly, we have 4 full Megazord sets at $50, and then what I have written here as 5.6 extra Zords. This is because there's a remaining 3 Zords from our main 12 Rangers, and then the adorable Kojishi Voyager. Then we've got the Cerberus Voyager, Doggy Voyager, which is a repaint of the Shishu Voyager. Due to it being larger than your standard Voyager and what is essentially the main component of a Megazord, I'm saying it could be a little more expensive than usual. So that's all of the possible sales for a Kyuranger adaptation. Let's add in the extra $10, and then this all adds up to a total of $780. Now let's bring in the other values because I actually have a correction to make with them. I was doing most of these calculations via a spreadsheet online and it did most of the math for me, but it turns out that I had the value of the auxiliary Zords at $10 in the calculations as opposed to the $15 I have been saying they would be sold at, and that makes more sense. So the value for ToQger is really $644 and $712 for Zyuohger. However, the reasons for the differences that I mentioned in the previous videos are the same. It's only really the exact value of the totals that were messed up. Everything else in those videos is pretty much the same. Okay, now let's compare the Kyuranger values to the trains and animals. As you can see, Kyuranger beats out both of these seasons to a massive extent. There's about an $80 difference with Zyuohger, and a $150 difference with ToQger. And this isn't even counting the massive extensions that could be acquired with the selling of Kyutama. This big difference is really due to the amount of power-ups and Rangers Kyuranger has compared to the other seasons, and the extra auxiliary Zords because of those extra Rangers. The lack of extra weapons means that the series actually trails behind Zyuohger in terms of roleplay sales, and that can be easily remedied by either making new weapons like in Beast Morphers or expanding on the Kyutama gimmick more than I have here. Kyuranger really could make massive sales just based off of the large amount of Rangers it has, and that's not even really taking its massive gimmick size into account. If you do, the numbers will skyrocket and it for sure beats out the other 2 seasons. But even now, where we leave out this large gimmick, it still beats out the other 2 seasons. Kyuranger could really be amazing if it is brought into Power Rangers. The aesthetics of the season are truly phenomenal and in some cases are honestly beautiful, and really could make the season stand out and possibly attract more people than Power Rangers fans and reach a wider audience. Along with that, the massive possibilities from having the story being set almost exclusively in space could create gripping plot and characters and have really unique themes and ideas and make the season one you have to watch. And to back all of these crazy changes from the Power Rangers norm is the probability of an extremely massive toy line that could be a hit with older collectors and younger children alike. All of these factors together could make the Power Rangers adaptation of Uchu Sentai Kyuranger one of the most unique and distinct seasons ever, and really make the Hasbro era stand out. I hope that they adapt Kyuranger, as it is one of my favorite seasons of Super Sentai from a visual and story standpoint. Let me know what you hope Hasbro does with Super Sentai's largest space team ever down in the comment section, and also please consider sharing and liking the video, as this Sentai Potential series is one of my most ambitious projects on the channel, and any support, no matter how small, means a lot. If you want to stay tuned for this and more Super Sentai videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and I hope to see you next time for the finale with Lupin Ranger vs. Paddle Ranger. Thank you for watching.